The invisible watchers imagine this: you wake up in the morning. You reach for your phone before even getting out of bed. You check your notifications. Maybe a weather update, a few social media posts, or an email from work. Seems normal, right? But while you're still lying there, unaware, something else is happening. Your phone has already recorded your location. Your front-facing camera has likely recognized your face. Your search history, your clicks, even the way you scroll, all analyzed, categorized, and stored. And here's the real question. Who is watching? Some will say, come on, that's just technology. That's how things work now. And sure, that's what we've been told. But what if I told you that this level of control isn't a glitch in the system? It's the system itself. The truth is, you don't need cameras on every corner or a microchip in your skin to be tracked. That's outdated thinking. The modern world doesn't need to force you into surveillance. Because you're already volunteering for it. Most people assume that if something sinister was happening, it would be obvious. We picture dystopian futures with flashing red warnings, totalitarian regimes forcing us into submission, visible marks stamped on our bodies. But real control? Real control is something you don't even notice. It's not forced on you, it's offered to you. It's dressed up as convenience. It's wrapped in the sleek packaging of the latest technology, sold to you as entertainment, as security, as a way to make your life better. And you accept it. You sign the agreement without reading it. You grant access without asking why. You trade privacy for convenience, freedom for comfort. And by the time you realize what you've given up, it's already too late. The world we live in today is not moving toward a future of total control. It's already here. Think about it. You need a digital ID for almost everything. Your purchases are tracked and analyzed. Your smart devices listen even when you're not talking to them. Even your opinions, your beliefs, are monitored, censored, shaped. And what happens when you step out of line? What happens when you don't comply? Your content gets removed. Your account gets banned. Your bank freezes your assets. All without anyone kicking down your door. All without anyone forcing you to do anything. This isn't fiction. This is happening now. But here's the most dangerous part: most people don't see it. Most people don't care. And when the final phase of control is introduced, they won't resist it. Because they've already accepted it. A mark you can't see. Many believe that when ultimate control comes, it will be obvious, like a barcode stamped on your skin or a microchip implanted in your hand. But what if the real mark isn't physical at all? What if the real mark is your acceptance? Your submission? A time will come when people will be faced with a final choice. But by then, most will have already made their decision. Not because they were forced to. But because they were conditioned to. Look around. The signs are already here. Let me ask you something: have you noticed how people no longer ask questions? Have you noticed how new rules are accepted without hesitation? Have you noticed how people just go with the flow, never stopping to think why? That's not an accident. It's part of the process. We are being prepared, conditioned to accept a world where absolute control is disguised as safety, where blind obedience is seen as necessary, and where freedom is just an illusion. This isn't a warning about some distant future. This is about right now. So the only question is: do you see it? Or are you already part of it? In the next chapter, we'll break down how your every move, your searches, your conversations, even your thoughts, are being recorded and analyzed. And what that means for the future. Stay tuned. And if you're ready to wake up, keep watching. Your digital shadow. Let's play a game. For the next few minutes, try to imagine that you are invisible. No one can see you. No one knows where you are. Now, grab your phone. Still feel invisible. Because in reality, you are never truly alone. Right now, as you hold your device, your location has already been logged. Your last search has been recorded. Your screen time has been analyzed. Even your silence, the moments when your phone is idle, is monitored. And here's the catch, you agreed to all of it. Your every move, tracked. Have you ever searched for something online, only to see an ad for it minutes later? It wasn't magic. It wasn't a coincidence. It was data collection at work. Every second, your devices gather information about you. Some of it is obvious. Some of it is invisible. Your location, even when your GPS is off, your phone tracks nearby Wi-Fi signals and cell towers. Your face, facial recognition is built into your phone, your laptop, even store cameras. Your voice, your smart assistant doesn't just wake up when you say, "Hey Siri," or "Hey Google." It's always listening. Your searches, even if you delete your browser history, your internet provider still knows what you looked up. But that's just the beginning. Because they don't just collect data, they predict your next move. You are more predictable than you think. Have you ever wondered how Netflix always knows what you'll want to watch next? Or how Amazon suggests things you never searched for, but somehow wanted? It's not intuition. It's mathematics. Algorithms don't just analyze your past behavior. They predict your future behavior. They know what time you usually wake up, how long you spend on each app, what words grab your attention, what triggers an emotional reaction. They don't just track what you do. They track who you are. And the more data they collect, the more they shape your decisions, without you even realizing it. How much do you pay for Facebook? How much do you pay for Instagram? For TikTok? For Google? Nothing. So have you ever asked yourself, if these services are free, how do they make billions of dollars? Here's the truth, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. Your data is being sold every single day. Your likes, your comments, your habits, packaged and sold to advertisers, politicians, corporations. And it's not just about what you buy. It's about what you believe. Your emotions are tracked. Your opinions are analyzed. Your worldview is carefully shaped, one newsfeed, one notification, one video at a time. People say, "I have nothing to hide. Why should I care?" But privacy isn't about hiding something. It's about control. Because once someone else controls your data, they control your decisions. And if they control your decisions, they control you. Imagine a world where your job application is rejected because of something you posted 5 years ago. Your insurance rate is increased because an algorithm detects risky behavior in your online habits. Your bank account is flagged because you searched for controversial topics. Does that sound far-fetched? It's already happening. Here's the real question: what happens when data collection isn't optional? When your identity is tied to your online footprint? When your social reputation determines your financial access? When algorithms know you better than you know yourself? Some might say, that's the price of progress. Others might say, that's the beginning of total control. The real question is, what do you think? The price of convenience. Imagine this scenario: you walk into a grocery store. No cash. No credit card. No phone. You pick up what you need, walk through the exit, and, just like that, your account is automatically charged. No checkout. No cashier. No interaction at all. Sounds like the future, right? Well, it's already here. Amazon has launched cashier-free stores. China's facial recognition payments allow people to buy with a smile. Major banks are rolling out digital wallets tied to biometric data. It's fast. It's easy. It's convenient. But here's the real question: what happens when convenience becomes control? Let's start with digital IDs. Governments around the world are pushing for a universal digital identity system. The European Union is already developing a Europe-wide digital ID that will connect bank accounts, medical records, social media accounts. Travel history. Sounds efficient, right? But efficiency always comes at a price. Because in a system where everything is connected, you are no longer just a citizen. You are a data point. And when your entire life is linked to a single digital profile, what happens when access is denied? Want to withdraw cash? Sorry, no physical money allowed. Want to buy something? Sorry, account temporarily restricted. Want to travel? Sorry, your social score is too low. That's not a dystopian future. That's already happening in parts of the world. And it's spreading faster than you think. In China, the social credit system is already in full swing. Every citizen is scored based on what they buy, who they associate with, what they say online. Too many bad marks. You lose travel privileges. You lose access to financial services. You lose opportunities, sometimes without ever knowing why. And here's the terrifying part: this system is being watched. Other nations are taking notes. And slowly, piece by piece, similar systems are being introduced globally. Now, imagine this: what if your credit score wasn't just about your finances? What if it was about your opinions? Your political beliefs? Your compliance with the system? What if your entire ability to participate in society was based on whether you followed the rules? Rules that you didn't set. Rules that can change at any time. Fingerprints. Retina scans. Voice recognition. Your body is your new password. And while that sounds secure, it raises a critical question: what happens when you are the product? Because once your biometric data is stored in a system, you can't change it. You can change your password. You can change your email. But you can't change your fingerprints. You can't change your DNA. Once your biological identity is in the hands of a system, you are no longer in control of it. And that means whoever controls the system, controls you. Now, you might be thinking, I don't live in China. I don't have a digital ID. This doesn't affect me. But that's how control always begins. Step 1, introduce a system as an optional convenience. Step 2, normalize it. Step 3, make it mandatory. Remember when cash was the default? Now, some businesses refuse to accept it. Remember when facial recognition was just for unlocking your phone? Now, it's used in airports, stores, and even stadiums. Slowly, step by step, these systems are becoming a requirement. And by the time you realize it's no longer optional, it's too late. So what happens when all of these technologies merge? A digital ID system that tracks your every move. A social credit system that determines what you can and can't do. A biometric payment system that replaces cash. All connected. All automated. All controlled by a system you didn't vote for. And if that system decides that you don't belong, then what? Do you see where this is going? They say that technology is neutral. That it depends on who controls it. But here's the real problem: what if you're no longer the one in control? Because in the end, the system doesn't need chains. It doesn't need walls. It just needs your willingness to comply. And history shows us that's the easiest thing to achieve. History repeats itself. Let me ask you something. What would it take for you to give up your freedom? Would you surrender your privacy to feel safer? Would you follow orders to protect your family? Would you obey, simply because everyone else does? You might think, no way. I would never fall for that. But history tells us a different story. Because time and time again, fear has been the greatest tool of control. And the scariest part? It still works. Fear makes people do things they never thought they would. Fear turns neighbors against neighbors. Fear makes people accept the unacceptable. Fear makes people give up their rights, voluntarily. And those in power? They know this. And they use it. Throughout history, leaders, governments, and regimes have used fear not just to control people, but to make them beg for control. The Roman Empire was one of the most powerful civilizations in history. But how did they keep their people obedient? They had a simple strategy: give the people distractions. Give them comfort. Keep them entertained. The phrase, bread and circuses, comes from Rome, where the government provided free food and massive gladiator games to keep the public happy. The idea? As long as people were distracted, they wouldn't rebel. Sound familiar? Mindless entertainment keeps people numb to what's happening around them. Endless distractions prevent people from asking real questions. Social media algorithms feed you what you want to hear, not what you need to know. The Romans understood something we're still falling for today: if you keep people entertained, you don't need to control them. They will control themselves. Now, let's fast forward to the 20th century. During World War II, some of the most horrific atrocities in history were committed. But here's the unsettling truth: most of the people who carried them out were just following orders. The Nuremberg trials exposed a chilling reality: people will obey authority even when they know it's wrong. Soldiers said they were just doing their job. Officials claimed they were just following protocol. Citizens turned a blind eye, believing it was not their place to question. It was only after the war, when the full extent of the horror was revealed, that people asked, how did this happen? The answer? It didn't happen all at once. It happened step by step. First, fear was introduced. Then, new rules were enforced. Then, non-compliance was punished. By the time people realized what was happening, resisting meant risking everything. And so, they complied. Because by then, fear had done its job. Now, let's talk about something more recent. On September 11, 2001, the world changed forever. In the wake of tragedy, fear was at an all-time high. People were desperate for security, stability, protection. And that's when the Patriot Act was introduced. It promised to keep people safe, but at a cost. Government surveillance expanded overnight. Phone calls, emails, online activity, all monitored. Citizens were told, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. But here's what history teaches us: once you give up a right, you rarely get it back. The Patriot Act was supposed to be temporary. But over 20 years later, mass surveillance is stronger than ever. Fear created a loophole for control. And that loophole never closed. Look back at history, and you'll see the same pattern over and over again. Step 1, create fear. Step 2, introduce temporary restrictions. Step 3, make those restrictions permanent. And the worst part? Most people never notice it's happening. Because they're too distracted. Too comfortable. Too afraid to question it. What happens next? If you think the past was bad, think about this. What happens when fear is combined with modern technology? When biometric tracking makes your every move visible? When social credit scores determine what you can and can't do? When your entire life is controlled by an algorithm you can't escape? If history has taught us anything, it's this: people will accept almost anything, if they believe it will keep them safe. So when the next crisis comes, when the next temporary measure is introduced, when they tell you it's for your own good, will you question it? Or will you comply? Because remember, the most powerful form of control is the one you never realize is happening. The biblical connection: what if I told you, this was all predicted? Not just decades ago. Not even centuries ago. Thousands of years ago. In a time before technology. Before governments as we know them. Before digital surveillance, artificial intelligence, or biometric tracking. Yet somehow, the Bible describes a future that looks eerily similar to the world we're entering today. Coincidence? Or something much bigger? Let's take a look. In the book of Revelation, written nearly 2,000 years ago, there is a passage that has puzzled and fascinated people for generations. Revelation, chapter 13, verses 16 and 17, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark." A mark. Required for trade. Without it, you cannot buy or sell. Does that sound familiar? For centuries, people have speculated about what the mark could be. In the past, some thought it would be a tattoo. Others believed it would be a barcode. Today, some believe it could be a microchip implanted in the skin. Others say it could be a digital ID tied to a global system. Some even suggest that it might not be a physical mark at all, but rather a symbol of allegiance to a global system of control. The key point isn't what it looks like. The key point is what it represents. A world where you cannot participate unless you comply. A world where economics, identity, and power are fully controlled. A world where resistance means being shut out of society entirely. And if you think that sounds extreme, look at where we are right now. Before something becomes mandatory, it must first become normal. And right now, we are being conditioned to accept a system where our ability to buy and sell is controlled by digital forces. Physical cash is disappearing. Digital currencies are being introduced. Biometric payment systems are replacing traditional money. Some banks are even testing centralized digital currencies where every dollar is tracked, programmable, and controllable. Imagine a future where, if you say the wrong thing, your bank account is frozen. If you support the wrong cause, your financial privileges are revoked. If you step out of line, you are cut off from the system. That's not science fiction. That's already happening in certain parts of the world. And what does Revelation say? That there will come a time when no one can buy or sell unless they accept the mark. If we're not there yet, how much closer do we need to be before people start paying attention? The book of Revelation doesn't just talk about a mark. It also describes a system, a beast. Revelation, chapter 13, verse 7, "And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds, and tongues, and nations." This isn't one nation. This isn't one leader. This is global. A structure of control that transcends borders, cultures, and governments. A structure that demands loyalty, and punishes those who refuse. Does that sound far-fetched? Look around. We live in an era where governments, corporations, and financial institutions are becoming more centralized than ever before. Power is being consolidated. And as history has shown, when power is centralized, control always follows. If the prophecy is real, if the warning is true, then what does that mean for us? It means that there will come a time, perhaps sooner than we think, when every person will face a choice. A choice between convenience and conviction. A choice between comfort and truth. A choice between acceptance and resistance. And when that moment comes, most people won't even realize they're making a choice at all. Because they'll have already been conditioned to accept it. Not by force, but by fear. But here's the most important part of all. The Bible doesn't just warn us. It also tells us how to stand strong. Revelation, chapter 14, verse 12, "Here is the patience of the saints, here are they that keep the commandments of God, and the faith of Jesus." This isn't about fear. This is about awareness. This is about knowing what's coming, before it happens. Because in the end, the greatest deception isn't forcing people into control. It's making them believe they chose it themselves. Now, here's the question, is all of this just a coincidence? Or are we seeing something much bigger unfold? Are these just random advancements in technology? Or are we being prepared, step by step, for a future that was foretold thousands of years ago? The answers are out there. The signs are everywhere. The only real question is, are you paying attention? The chains you can't see. Let me tell you a secret about control. The most effective form of control isn't forced. It doesn't come with chains. It doesn't come with threats. The most powerful control is the kind you never notice. Because when control is invisible, you don't fight it. You accept it. You embrace it. You defend it. And eventually, you become part of it. Most people believe they are free. They have jobs. They can travel. They can buy what they want, say what they want, live how they want. But is that really true? Or is it just an illusion? Let's think about it. Can you live without the system? Can you exist without a digital identity? Can you function without a bank account, a smartphone, or an internet connection? If the answer is no, then ask yourself, are you really free? Or have you simply accepted a different kind of prison? Control doesn't always come with barbed wire and locked doors. Sometimes, it comes with comfort. With things that make life easier. With things that are so useful, so addictive, that people willingly chain themselves to them. Social media. It's a cage. It keeps you distracted while your data is harvested. Smartphones. They track your every move. But you still carry one everywhere. Digital payments. They make transactions seamless. But they also erase financial privacy. People don't question these things. Because they're convenient. They don't resist them. Because they make life easier. And before they even realize it, they can't function without them. There was a time when people valued privacy. Now, privacy is treated as suspicious. Want to avoid facial recognition? You must be hiding something. Want to use cash instead of digital payments? Why? What are you up to? Want to keep your personal data private? What are you afraid of? Little by little, people have been conditioned to believe that privacy isn't a right. It's a privilege. Something that must be earned. Something that can be taken away. And because of that, people willingly give it up. They let their homes be filled with smart devices that listen. They let their phones track their location, voice, and habits. They let companies and governments build dossiers of their lives. All because they were told it would make life easier. Safer. More fun. But here's the real question, who benefits more, you? Or the ones who control the system? Have you ever wondered why most people think the same way? It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It's by design. The world we live in today is built on influence. And those in power know something very important, they don't need to control you. If they can control what you think. That's why, social media platforms decide which opinions are acceptable. Algorithms show you content that keeps you in line. News outlets repeat the same narratives, over and over again. And over time, people stop questioning. They stop thinking for themselves. They absorb whatever they are told. Because when you hear something enough times, it stops feeling like a message. It starts feeling like the truth. If people don't accept control willingly, there's another tool that always works. Fear. Fear is the ultimate weapon. Because when people are scared, they will accept anything that promises safety. History has proven it. Again and again. After September 11th, people accepted mass surveillance, because they were afraid. During the last global crisis, people accepted tracking and restrictions, because they were afraid. In every major historical shift, fear has been used to make people beg for control. And here's the scariest part, fear doesn't just make people comply. It makes them enforce the rules themselves. It turns neighbor against neighbor. It turns society into its own police force. And eventually, people no longer need to be controlled. Because they do it to themselves. So how do you get people to accept total control? Not by force. By choice. You make them love their own enslavement. You make them fear what will happen if they don't comply. You make them addicted to the system until they can't live without it. And once they reach that point, they won't resist. They won't fight back. They will defend the system, because they are part of it. And by then, the chains won't even be necessary. Because the prison will be in their minds. What happens next? The world is changing fast. Control is becoming stronger. Freedom is becoming weaker. And most people don't even notice. So here's the question, do you? What comes next? Let's be honest. If you've made it this far, you already know that the world is changing. You can feel it. Something is shifting. Something is building. And the big question is, where is it all heading? Will the future be a world of absolute control? Or will people wake up in time to stop it? There are two possible paths. And which one we take depends on the choices we make now. Let's start with the worst-case scenario. A world where everything, from your money to your movements to your thoughts, is tracked, recorded, and controlled. A world where cash no longer exists. Every transaction is digital and monitored. Biometric IDs are required for everything. Travel, shopping, even accessing the internet. Social credit determines your privileges. Say the wrong thing. Lose points. Lose access. Artificial intelligence decides who is trustworthy and who is not. A world where people don't just obey the system. They worship it. They defend it. They enforce it, on themselves, on their neighbors, on their own families. And the scariest part? Most won't even realize what happened. Because it won't come with force. It won't come with violence. It will come step by step. In the name of safety. In the name of progress. In the name of a better world. Until one day, there is no choice left at all. But there is another possibility. A world where people wake up before it's too late. A world where people question the system instead of blindly trusting it. Privacy is valued again, not given away for convenience. Decentralization grows, giving people alternatives outside of the controlled grid. Faith and morality become stronger than fear and manipulation. It won't be easy. It will take effort. Because waking up means taking responsibility. It means thinking critically. It means rejecting the illusion of comfort for the truth. But here's the good news, the system only works if people accept it. It only functions if people comply. So what happens if people choose not to? We are standing at a crossroads. One road leads to total submission. The other leads to freedom. The problem? Most people won't even realize they've made a choice. Because they'll be too distracted. Too entertained. Too busy. By the time they understand what's happening, the choice will already be made for them. If you want to know where we're going, just look at what's already happening. Governments pushing digital IDs. Financial institutions eliminating cash. Social media silencing voices that don't fit the narrative. Surveillance increasing under the excuse of protection. Each one of these steps may seem small. But together, they form a path. A path that is leading somewhere very specific. The question is, are you paying attention? How do you resist? Here's the truth, you don't need to wait for some grand event to decide which path you're on. You're deciding right now. With every choice, every action, every belief you accept without questioning. So what can you do? Guard your privacy. Don't give it away so easily. Think critically. Don't accept every narrative without question. Take control of your data, your finances, your choices. Strengthen your faith. Because in the end, this is bigger than politics. The future is not set in stone. But it is being written, right now. So, I'll ask again, where do you think this is all heading? Do you believe in a future where freedom survives? Or do you see a world where people willingly surrender everything, because it was easier than resisting? The decision isn't just in the hands of governments, or corporations, or artificial intelligence. It's in your hands. Right now. So choose wisely. Because the window for choice won't stay open forever. How to protect yourself now that you see where the world is heading. What can you do about it? Most people, when faced with this kind of information, react in one of two ways. Some ignore it. They tell themselves, it's out of my hands. Some panic. They think, it's too late to do anything. But both of these responses are exactly what the system wants. Because if you believe you're powerless, you won't resist. But the truth is, you're not powerless. There are things you can do right now to protect yourself. Because in the end, the only way to win this game is to stop playing by their rules. Step 1. Protect your mind. Let's start with the most important battlefield, your mind. Because the first step to controlling people isn't taking their money. It isn't taking their freedom. It's shaping how they think. That's why, news outlets repeat the same talking points, over and over again. Social media algorithms show you what they want you to believe. Entertainment is designed to keep you numb, distracted, and obedient. If you let them control your thoughts, they don't need to control anything else. So what can you do? Think critically. Question everything. If something is pushed too aggressively, ask yourself why. Diversify your information. Don't rely on one source for news. Get different perspectives. Be mindful of social conditioning. What ideas are being repeated so often that they start to feel normal? Because once you take back control of your mind, everything else becomes easier. Step 2. Protect your privacy. Let's be clear, your data is valuable. That's why corporations spend billions of dollars collecting it. That's why governments are racing to build digital identity systems. Because the more they know about you, the easier you are to control. So here's what you can do: limit what you share online. Every social media post, every search, every message is a data point. Use encrypted communication. Messaging apps like Signal offer better protection than mainstream platforms. Turn off unnecessary tracking. Your phone tracks your location, even when you think it doesn't. Disable it. Be careful with biometric data. Once your face, fingerprint, or retina scan is in a system, you can't take it back. Because remember, the easiest way to not be tracked is to stop giving them the information. Now, let's talk about money. Because one of the fastest ways to control people is through their finances. Think about it, if cash disappears, every transaction can be tracked, taxed, or blocked. If digital currency is controlled by governments, your money can be frozen with the click of a button. If your financial security depends on one system, you have no backup plan when that system turns against you. So how do you protect yourself? Diversify your assets. Don't keep everything in one bank or one currency. Consider alternative stores of value. Gold, silver, and even crypto can provide a hedge against control. Limit your digital dependency. The more you rely on automated systems, the less control you have. Learn basic self-sufficiency. If the system collapsed tomorrow, would you be able to sustain yourself? Because financial freedom is more than just having money. It's having control over it. Step 4. Strengthen your faith. At the end of the day, this isn't just a political issue. It's not just about technology, governments, or corporations. This is about something much bigger. Because what we are seeing right now isn't just a shift in power. It's a battle for the human soul. A battle between truth and deception. Between freedom and control. Between faith and fear. So here's what you can do: stay grounded in truth. The world will try to shake your beliefs. Stand firm. Build spiritual resilience. Because when the world falls apart, faith is the only thing that keeps people strong. Surround yourself with people who see the bigger picture. There is power in community. Because in the end, the strongest weapon against control is not fear. It's faith. The choice is yours. Here's the bottom line: you don't have to accept this system. You don't have to be a slave to the machine. You can think differently. You can prepare. You can make choices that protect you and your family. But you have to do it before it's too late. Because the reality is, the window for making these decisions is closing. And the time to act is now. The final question. So, here we are. You've heard the warnings. You've seen the patterns. You understand what's happening. And now, the question is simple: what are you going to do about it? Will you ignore it? Will you pretend it's not real? Will you convince yourself that it won't affect me? Or will you wake up before it's too late? Because the truth is, you don't have forever. The world won't wait. The world is changing faster than ever before. New laws are being passed every day that increase surveillance and control. Cash is disappearing, replaced by digital currencies that can be frozen instantly. Biometric tracking is becoming a requirement, not an option. Artificial intelligence is shaping what you see, what you think, what you believe. And most people, they don't see it happening. They're too distracted. Too entertained. Too comfortable. Until one day, they wake up in a world they no longer recognize. A world where they have no choices left. But by then, it's too late. Many people think, if I just follow the rules, I'll be fine. But history shows us, that's never how it works. Because when control becomes absolute, obedience doesn't protect you. It only delays the inevitable. The system doesn't care how loyal you were. It doesn't care how much you complied. Because once you've given up your freedom, you're no longer a person. You're a subject. And subjects don't have rights. They only have permissions. And permissions can be taken away. So, what happens next? That depends on you. Do you stay asleep? Keep following the system, hoping it won't turn against you? Panic? Give in to fear, doing nothing because it all seems too overwhelming? Or take control? Prepare, protect your privacy, guard your mind, and strengthen your faith. Because the system only works if people accept it. It only has power if you give it power. So the real question isn't what happens next. It's what will you do? The world is watching. The pieces are moving. And the future is being decided right now. Not by governments. Not by corporations. Not by artificial intelligence. But by you. So make your choice. Because in the end, you either stand, or you surrender. But doing nothing, that's still a choice. And it might be the most dangerous one of all. What do you think? Have you noticed the changes happening around you? Do you feel like something bigger is coming? Do you believe people will resist, or will they accept control willingly? Let me know. Because the more we talk about it, the harder it will be to ignore. So share this. Comment below. Keep the conversation going. Because the one thing they fear the most is people who think for themselves.